Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us again. This has been a really great week for us because Susie's gotten her Decipher You article out on the last batch of Snowden files that we went through. And there were some amazing points in there. And I hope you guys have all had time to read it. We've also got, I got my article out as well on the Snowden files and did the best I could in a long form article on what we found. I hope you guys had time to read that as well. We've got a great batch of HTML links of all of the different files in batch 4. And we're just really glad that you all joined us. So,
hey everyone, thanks for that intro, Elizabeth. Yeah, that pretty much covers it. I think hundreds of people retweeted the list of findings on Decipher You from the last batch, batch 3. And as promised this week, we're going to start on batch 4 of the Snowden SIDToday files. So I will just share screen with you and you can check out this awesome thing that I have sitting here waiting for us, which was prepared by a really good friend who has actually, like, to solve some of the issues we're having, because we're trying to just make this a little bit easier each time we do this. That person has gone ahead and ranked like all the files, like got them in numerical order for us and has hyperlinked them all to the intercept. So in previous episodes, you would have seen me going back and forward, chopping and changing between the intercept site and my local folders, but now we're not going to have to do that. So is there anything else that you want to say, Liz, before we start? Or should we just jump straight into it?
Yeah, I think we should.
Hi to everyone in the chat.
Yeah, and thank you for everyone for sure that is joining us. So look forward to finding some interesting information here.
Cool. Okay, I'm going to try and keep this short today, like 2 hours max, hopefully, but we'll get through as many documents as we can in that time. If you have any questions, just, oh yeah, right, and that's our pirate pad. So cool, Crocatoo's here and he's really helpfully sharing that we have a live pirate pad. So the purpose of the pirate pad is that if Elizabeth and I have questions, we want to know more about something that we're researching, we will ask you guys, and then someone puts the question in the pirate pad and then people can put their answers in the pirate pad. And we also keep a little list of ongoing research topics as well in there. So you can actually have a read through and see like some of the open-ended topics that we want to know more about that we haven't written up yet. There's some details in that. And please, any supporting links that you can find to anything related to that, please go ahead and put them in the pad as well.
Yeah, everyone's research on this is so appreciated. It's really wonderful to see you guys contribute and collaborate with us as we're, looking through these documents. So
it's been amazing and it's been fun. It's really fun working with other people, in real time like this.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So let's get started. So our first document is the role of technical directors in AP. So let's have a look. Analysis and production is ANP. So in case you guys aren't familiar with the redaction rules at the Intercept, if a name is already a public figure, then they don't redact it. If a name is not a public figure, then they do redact it. Okay, so it's just describing new roles, middle management roles. It's pretty much just an HR doc. I don't think there's anything particularly interesting there. This looks more interesting. Class for grade 14 and above, denial and deception executive overview. Now, we know that the CIA gives out denial and deception awards, so this might shine a bit more light on that. Register for the executive overview. Interesting that it's being held by that. Oh, this one problem with reading off the Intercept is I can't highlight easily. Interesting that it's the SIGINT policy, congressional issues and intelligence security, that is holding that presentation.
Yeah.
If you want to know how the Vice President, the Secretary of Defense, and the DCI, Director of Central Intelligence, feel about denial and deception and how you fit into the denial and deception equation, don't miss this presentation. This is their strategy for countering denial and deception, so presumably by other agencies. Media disclosures, espionage, foreign intelligence exchanges, demarques that have all led to the erosion of US intelligence capabilities against WMD, terrorism, and other intelligence problems. Adversarial denial and deception, as opposed to the denial and deception that the CIA hands out awards for. Interesting. So denial actually means preventing other people from getting their hands on it, on their secrets.
Yeah, that's a definition that I don't think I took.
Wow.
Yeah.
And deception. Interesting. Look at the classifications on the definitions.
Yeah. That is interesting.
They actually have deception as unclassified and denial as classified secret. Methods and means of protecting state and military secrets and of preventing or impairing US intelligence collection and analysis that targets those secrets. Preventing or impairing. Okay, so when they're talking about adversarial denial, so what they're actually talking about, they're not talking about methods of preventing people accessing US secrets. They're talking about people or foreign agencies preventing the US intelligence collection of their own secrets. So yeah, the US wanting to collect on another country, and that country having methods or means to prevent the US from carrying out that collection is denial. But presumably it goes both ways, given that they give out these denial and deception awards.
Absolutely.
Deception, measures designed to mislead by manipulation, distortion, or falsification of evidence to induce the US to react in a manner prejudicial to its interests. So it's like a false flag, right? Like when they're talking about falsification of evidence to induce the US to react in a manner prejudicial to its interests.
Yeah, that's an interesting take from that. I didn't think of that.
Well, that would be like a false flag event that would lead the US to believe A and therefore do B in response.
Yeah, the first thing that came to my mind when I read falsification was more like Colin Powell holding up the diagrams at the UN, that type of presentation of shoddy evidence, that type of thing. I didn't think false flag initially, but that's a good point from that.
I think your example is correct in terms of deception of the public and perhaps deception of the UN.
Yeah.
But I think that the context that this is in is like intergovernmental.
Yeah, that makes more sense, yeah.
It's between states. So my reading of this, and others might have a completely different reading or more knowledge about it, but my reading of this is that it is one state deceiving another state deliberately to mislead by manipulation, distortion, or falsification of evidence to induce. So that would be like honeypots, right? Like imagine like, I don't know, like I don't want to give real world examples because I don't want people to like take it the wrong way, but imagine one state like sets up some kind of like honey trap, like nuclear system, or something like that, and just purely because they know the US will want to attack it, that the US will find it, will want to attack it, and then by attacking it, the US will expose some of its methods or of penetration or something like this. It's like, this is how I'm reading it.
Yeah, that sounds like a brilliant take on it, I think.
To induce the US to react. So it's baiting them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Deception is baiting.
And this also, as you said before with denial, that you assume that this is exactly what they're doing as well to other countries. If they're defining this as...
Yeah, well, they give out awards for this. So,
yeah, exactly.
I mean, we should probably keep reading the document. Maybe there's something else in it, or maybe not. But since this is an executive leadership course, let's see what the chat has to say about that. Yes, absolutely, Matt. If you find something relevant on WikiLeaks, please do that. But also go ahead and post the link to it into the pirate pad as well.
But they have to have wrenches to do that. To post links.
Denial and deception lying 101. I don't think you have to have wrenches to stick it in the pirate pad.
Oh, okay. Yeah, right.
The pirate pad is like horizontal.
Yeah, I was just thinking of the chat. My bad.
Oh, no. Oh, right, to put the links in the chat.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure Matt's safe to give a wrench to if someone wants to. So is East. I mean, we know most of these guys, like these guys who we know, I'm more than happy for them all to have wrenches. You're grabbing my screenshot of Charlie and retweeting me. Yeah, I'd frame that and stick it on your wall. Okay. Back to our document. So yeah, I mean, or maybe I'm wrong, I thought that the Denial and Deception Awards were for NSA people committing denial and deception.
Yeah,
like to protect US secrets. I'm just going to stop the share for a second so that we can actually see myself. Yeah, this is how I'd been thinking about it. I've been thinking like that it was the US, the denial aspect was them protecting US secrets, and the deception was them actively deceiving other countries to do this. But denial and deception in the context of this document is the opposite. It's adversarial, but then the fact that they qualify adversarial, denial and deception, seems to mean that it goes both ways. You guys in chat do think like surely logically it must go both ways, right? So they're committing denial and deception and they're countering denial and deception from other agencies.
Yeah, and these are really useful definitions to have for what we would assume they're doing themselves, the projection of this. I think that's a fantastic document to keep. And
I think so too, actually. And also, as you say about the definition, the fact that we've previously written about denial and deception, I think it's extremely important to now contextualize that. And I think it is very powerful to have their own specific definition of it, like literally the definition in terms from the NSA of what constitutes denial and deception.
Definitely. So brilliant second document or third document to look at.
Cool. So I will go ahead and add that in. Definitions, denial and deception, and the document link.
Yeah, those will definitely probably come in handy later when we look at other documents as well.
So interesting, like just for getting in the headspace of these guys and what they do. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, and the point you made about the different definitions being classified differently, that was an interesting point to notice.
Yeah.
Like why they would.
It's really interesting.
Yeah, the denial would be secret, and then but deception would be unclassified. It's an interesting difference.
I'm just making a note of that, the different classifications. I'm not sure if there's anything else in there that was particularly of note.
No, the rest of it just sounded. Like
I mean, I found the division that's actually hosting the class to be a bit strange, and maybe we should be having a second look at who the speaker was.
Yeah, they didn't redact their name at the top. So I assume that's because they're a public figure, but.
Course classification, top secret. And look at that, like that no fawn marking there means no Five Eyes. So even like the Five Eyes partners and the secondary partners and everyone are not allowed.
Interesting.
And you know why that is?
Yeah, because it's the methods they'll be using against them, and then
exactly. The reason that is because the other Five Eyes are actually targets.
Yeah,
they're actually targets. I mean, especially in context, you think of like New Zealand now on the Security Council, etc. Like, and like New Zealand, you know, they'd act all shocked to be a target of the US, but that's really exactly the proof right there. Okay. So quick look, Dr. Gershwin. So we want to know, who is Dr. Gershwin? Dr. Larry Gershwin, the National Intelligence Officer for Intelligence Assurance and Chairman of the Foreign Denial and Deception Committee. They have a committee. So that will be why the Office of SIGINT Policy and Congressional Issues is overseeing it. Because that Chairman of the Foreign Denial and Deception Committee, that sounds very much like it'll be a congressional committee. Yeah. And which then explains the references to the Vice President, Secretary of Defense, and Director of Central Intelligence. Because like when I first read that, I was like, oh, those are pretty high level references to be dumping in here, but it makes sense. So that'll be why it's congressional issues, and that'll be why it's the Foreign Denial and Deception Committee. So that also adds some more context to that previous document that we were reading about the responsibilities of NSA reporting to Congress.
Yeah, and the amount of bureaucracy that information went through before it could be presented to Congress. They were very heavily auditing everything.
No, but they in the list of terms, the list of events that they were obligated to report to Congress, one of them related to like this type of failure. Like failures or like essentially blowback, like as a result of denial and deception activities.
Nice.
And I would say that the reason for that is because they're having to report it to this specific committee where it relates to denial and deception.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. Again, it's just contextual. I don't think it affects much in terms of our reporting, but it does, I mean, that does definitely give me enhanced understanding. A Patriot story.
Oh,
this sounds
fantastic.
This sounds like it's going to be another one of those, like, I went to such and such a place. Oh, here we go. Patriotism is not.
Yeah.
Patriotism is not uncommon in the NSA population. It is in fact a requirement for working here.
Oh my God, but
no. In a very overt manner. I'm not really sure what they mean here, but I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, I think he's talking about people that are obviously from a different country that become American citizens and then I guess work as NSA employees.
So this person's come from Israel in 1983. Let's see, they came from like a BA.
But they worked as a linguist. It makes sense.
Look, it's just put that word international in a whole new light, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Like we were talking about, you know, the international affairs, international politics, now international business. Okay, so it's just a bunch of feel good. Yeah, I personally don't see anything of significance there other than the degree that they entered on.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that's the most interesting factor is like what they studied in university to become a linguist.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I should be drinking from my cup.
That's funny. But yeah, those internal brochures are really just, I wouldn't say, I mean, interesting is the wrong word. They're kind of amusing just because like, what is the purpose? Is that just to,
it's propaganda. I mean, you get this at the pharmaceutical companies as well. They email their staff like, we saved this many lives of people with AIDS today. We saved this many, kids from getting whatever. And like, I mean, you get it in most businesses, really. Think about the email from the HR director, like, oh, we've done such a great job at this. We've done such a great job at that. It's so wonderful to work here. It's such a great workplace. Yeah. It's almost like propaganda is one of the key components of capitalism, and not only capitalism, but certainly in capitalism.
Yeah, and as we've talked about before, the NSA obviously uses a lot of corporate sounding business language. Throughout its documents, it talks about that being a really high priority as well. So, as you've pointed out.
Crocodile, you think the person is Palestinian and translating Palestinian language?
Because was that because of the mention of being banned from various programs in Israel?
It did say that this country was able to give me more than the country of my birth, than my home country.
Yeah, it sounded like when he mentioned being banned from some programs, it sounded a little bit like there was some type of censorship happening, but I don't know that meant that they were Palestinian. Not sure.
It would be interesting if they're Palestinian. However, it doesn't really change much from our reporting perspective.
Yeah.
Okay, moving along. Making it easy. As a repost, we may have seen this before. Yeah, we have seen this before. It's just user guide. Okay, it's totally irrelevant. SIGINT users conference. Information needs and outcomes. The SIGINT users conference.
This 3 or 4? I think it's 4.
Batch 4.
No, I mean which one have we gotten up to now? So I'm keeping.
I think we're up to. Well, no, we're on time. Only 260 to go. Okay.
Interesting. It's talking about the legal parameters within which SIGINT operates.
Yeah, and that privacy document, there was like 5 legal documents that every year every person was supposed to read. Did you see that in the write-up?
Yeah.
And I couldn't help but think, like, when I was reading them, it's like, okay, so you make your entire workforce, you make your entire workforce read these documents about the legal requirements and protecting privacy and respecting the Constitution. But then what do you actually do if they raise the issues?
Yeah.
Are you like, oh, that's great, you're like, abiding by your legal requirements? Or are you like, shut up, we don't want to know about that? And I think that's the Snowden quagmire, right? Is that he knew that. And I mean, presumably he would have had to be reading those legal documents along with the rest of the workforce and signing off to say, I have read this. like they said, by the end of the fiscal year, you must sign that you have read all of the legal documents governing what NSA is doing. But I think what they tell you to read and sign versus what you're supposed to do in practice is very different. And that ties back to the manager saying you have to be basically an amnesiac.
Yeah.
Interesting. Mead, I guess that's Fort Meade. NSA at Fort Meade. Wow, so it seems that because we've read quite a bit about this information needs tool before, it seems that they are wanting to have an analyst serve where possible multiple information needs and multiple customers with a single item of information. That's what I take from that. Increase the number of relevant information needs cited on reports. Wow, I'd love to go to one of these conferences.
Yeah, part of me wonders if the reason that they focus on the legal
that would be really handy.
When within which they work is so that they can study better how to get around them. But that might be a bit of an obvious take from that. But
we're like, hey guys, can we get an invite to your conference, please? Because we'd like to understand more about your processes and what you're doing and how you're doing it. Okay. Five Eyes Global Network Forum. Okay, so presumably this will be yet another of those. We went to such and such place. So we've read the one about Australia. We know that this year they were in New Zealand. We also learned that every year they visit a different country. They alternate which country in the Five Eyes they go to, and they have a different code name for it.
Yeah, I remember that.
So in this case, they've gone to Canada. Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
Our target's use of commercial services.
That's what I was oohing about as well. Yeah.
This is like the pretext to prison.
Yeah, and look at it. Look at the classification too. It's really.
It looks like it's going to get better. Our target's use of commercial services have highlighted the need to coordinate collection efforts across all available accesses in order to more effectively exploit the global network.
Yeah.
Commercial accesses exploit global network. That's how I read that first paragraph. Commercial accesses.
That literally states in just plain English the point you had made all along, which is that they are selling people's information, and that is a money-making procedure.
I think it goes a bit beyond. I think it's a bit beyond that.
Yeah.
It's that what they're saying is that the nature of communications is changing. So if you go back like 30 years, people have a telephone company, they write and send mail through the postal service, Historically, both of those were government-owned functions. Before the 80s first wave of privatization, it was predominantly a government telephone company, a government mail office, and you're pretty much limited, you know, beyond that there was not much. But by 2004, people are now paying a whole range and engaging with and utilizing a whole range of communication services from commercial providers. So what they're saying here is that they need access to the commercial systems, and that they need to do it globally, not just in the United States. And they actually use the word exploit, which basically suggests to me that if they can't get that commercial access, they will exploit it anyway. So either they will do a deal with the commercial agency, or they will just take it. They will just steal it.
Amazing.
So if you think about some of the very first documents that came out, the very first Snowden documents that came out, where they revealed like Google, Microsoft, blah, 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 Facebook, everyone had, and they actually timelined it. It'd be useful for us to go back actually and have a look at it now. It was the Prison Partner Program. They actually timelined, I think it was from 2007. From memory, I think it was 2007. It would be great. It'll definitely be on edwardsnowden.com. That graphic, I'd love to have a link to it. But this discussion, what this is showing is this is the planning stage for that. And it looks like the turnaround time would have been pretty fast. If this is from 2004, they're talking about it, to 2007, companies are signing on the dotted line. I mean, because between those two things, it's not just that they have to approach the companies, they have to design a whole infrastructure, whole systems infrastructure to support the collection, which is what PRISM is. So it's actually pretty quick period of time for them to pick up on that. Definitely. Let's keep reading, because there's bound to be more. If someone can find me that first PRISM program slide from the Edward Snowden revelations, please, that would be very, very helpful. Right, our target's use of commercial services have highlighted the need to coordinate collection efforts across all available accesses. So they're coordinating with the Five Eyes in this case, but it'll be beyond the Five Eyes as well, in order to more effectively exploit the global network. This approach stresses cooperation amongst the Five Eyes partners on access availability and the need to take full advantage of each partner's finite resources.
Wow.
So you think about this as like post.com boom, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there is like this big explosion, like the Yahoos have burst into existence. Facebook is now launched and operational. Like they would have just seen all of these different communications platforms cropping up here, there, and everywhere, and they're wanting to ring fence them and to access the data, to be able to backdoor them and access the data, or to exploit them.
Definitely.
The agenda for the 3-day conference is comprehensive. Heads of delegation keen to define the structure and governance of the global network something, in addition to addressing topics coordinated in the months prior to the forum. Of particular interest were the ratification of the Charter and the documents proposing mechanisms to address the sharing of sensitive data to a wider audience across the Five Eyes intelligence community. Do you remember when we saw last time that there had been a new agreement signed between the US and the UK?
I do remember that, yeah.
Is this now the Five Eyes version of that agreement? Because we didn't know we knew agreement had been signed, we knew when it had been signed, but we didn't know what was in the agreement. This appears that the agreement is to address the sharing of sensitive data to a wider audience across the Five Eyes intelligence community. Because if we think about this in a modern day context, they're not just supplying the data to other agencies or to other countries in the Five Eyes, they're actually supplying data to private corporations. So in New Zealand, for example, we know that the definition of threat to national security includes critical infrastructure, that includes banks, that includes insurance companies, it includes major companies that are involved in the New Zealand economy. And the data sharing agreements they have is basically that they suck up all the data from those companies. And then if there's a terrorist threat or a threat to national security, they give some data back to those companies, they warn them or whatever, which is, I mean, I've never really understood this pretext, because they would have to do that anyway, they're obligated to do that anyway. But this is like it, right? It's supposed to be like a two-way information flow. I guess that they would just exploit and steal the company's data if the company didn't give it up themselves, which may be the case. But what this seems to be is that they're wanting to open up the, just as they were with Transformation 2.0, right?
Yeah.
Wanting to give more data to more different customers, allow them to swim upstream is the words that they use to describe it, allowing them to come up into and access information that's in the NSA databases. I think this is them wanting to do that with corporates across the Five Eyes, and not just with, like they say, intelligence community, but it's widening in scope. It's beginning to encompass the private market as well as the government, just the government agencies. That's my read on it. Does someone have that, the PRISM document, please? There is a PRISM slide where there is like a diagonal timeline, and it's the timeline, it pinpoints each a specific year and time that a major internet company signed on to the PRISM program.
I'm Googling, I'm checking.
It was one of the first ones published. I mean, the Intercept will probably definitely have it if you check the Intercept documents, but I'm sure it will also be at edwardsnowden.com. What I'm wanting to know is, what is the first year mapped on that graph? What is the earliest that a major corporation signed on to that program?
Okay, I'm looking through the slides right this second.
Okay, there was a positive atmosphere from the start of the conference, with each agency very willing to play a role in the success of them. They accepted the challenging responsibility for developing a strategic vision, blah, 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 blah. And it refers back to that Five Eyes SIGINT business vision again, which we had already made a note of. Except now it's letting us know that that is SIGINT strategic action access. So this is a sub look at that. They're actually referencing a subsection of the business vision. Okay, right, where's our pirate pad? Someone, let me give all you guys who are from.
Throw me a wrench. I have just like the general slides that are available like at Wikipedia are right here. And I haven't gone through them yet, but I have them up.
Deborah, I don't know which company was first, but I just want to know what year was the first company that signed on to it. Okay, Matt, you're also going to be moderator. Okay, fascinating stuff. Oh my God.
Yeah. So yeah.
Look. PRISM, blah, 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 blah. Where's the timeline?
Looks like
yes, dates when PRISM collection began for each provider, 2007. Yeah, I was right. And I see my gut feeling was it was Microsoft too, but I didn't want to say it. Microsoft, 2007, November 2007. So going back to our document, this is in
2004.
July 2004. So within 3 years and 4 months, they built the system and signed up the world's largest computing company.
Yeah, and those years also
fast.
called the explosion of some different social media giants as well. So,
okay, I'm just going to make a note of this because this document is like incredibly significant.
Definitely. The whole thing.
Now, next thing is this we definitely need to make a note of, okay? Because this is like a gift on a platter here. 5 eyes SIGINT business vision should be in our pirate pad. Can somebody please go into the pirate pad and under 5 eyes SIGINT business vision, can you put SIGINT strategic action dash access? Because what they're doing here is they're referencing a part of the business vision document, which is the strategic action access document, and that is where all the stuff that we're discussing, what they're plotting to do here, is related to. Initially, this will include ComSat, special source, and state room. We know what this is. I don't know what special source is. We'll cover cross-agency architecture and technical solutions. Okay, so we knew that GCSB was developing solutions for the NSA. In fact, one of the revelations in 2014 was that the GCSB had specifically aided in the development of X-Keyscore.
Yeah.
So this closer, and this ties back to the resources. So what this means is that they're not just sharing information, they're sharing developers, and they're probably sharing development managers, and they're sharing projects. So now they've got people in 5 countries developing solutions for the NSA, which in software terms means developing pieces of software, for example, PRISM. And what that means is that PRISM was likely constructed not just by the NSA. PRISM may well have been constructed by New Zealand, Australia, Canada, and the UK, as well as by the NSA. I'm just thinking, I wonder if that also expands to these like corporate partners, if they actually have external developers working on them as well. It's entirely possible.
That's what I was wondering too, reading this and understanding it, is like, are they somehow working with those corporations in developing PRISM and in developing that software that goes with that? From the intersection we've seen of corporations with the NSA, it wouldn't surprise me. I don't know that there's like evidence here of that, but
that is the wrong pirate pad. Someone, I don't know if you can delete your comments. Maybe I can delete your comment. Okay, I'm going to remove that comment because that pirate pad is the anti-survival pirate pad. That is not the pirate pad for what we're doing here. So can you please double check and get the correct one? Actually, I'm pretty sure I had a bookmarked. Yeah, I do. It's cool, I got it. Even, oh look, I can't access our pirate pad. How helpful. Okay, that should be the right one. Apparently it will automatically restart in 4 minutes. God, why do we always have so many problems with pirate pad?
Is it disconnected?
I have so many problems with pirate pad. Can anyone else access it?
Yeah, let me try.
I think the NSA does not like our pirate pad. Oh my God, there's so many points in here to like make note of. So I'm gonna get started, but also I guess I should finish reading the document. Wow, and you know, it's so freaky because like the other 2 documents that we've seen that are of exactly the same type are completely mundane and boring.
Yeah.
And there's nothing in them. And yet this one is like packed chock full of like good stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm also having troubles with pirate pad, so we'll see.
We should probably actually tell people on Twitter that we just learned a ton more about the PRISM program that I don't think anybody knew. At least I don't remember it. One thing that we should do is go back over the PRISM reporting and make sure that we're not doubling up on anything.
Yeah, that's true.
But I don't remember any mention of anything prior to 2007. But I think we just stumbled across the history of the prison program.
Yeah, that's a pretty major development for sure. I will tweet as well.
Wow, okay. Yeah, if you guys could send tweets, that'd be awesome, because I get so into studying the documents that I just completely forget.
Yeah, when it breaks your mental flow to try and type something while we're on like this.
Amazing. Someone says appoint Edward Snowden to head the CIA.
What did they say?
Oh, someone said appoint Edward, told real Donald Trump, appoint Edward Snowden to head the CIA. Absolutely hilarious. Very cool. Okay.
All right. Do we want to go to the next document, or do we want to?
No, I want to go back and read through the rest of that.
Yeah, that sounds good.
I've like gotten so excited about like the significance of what's in that, but we actually haven't finished reading it. So
yeah,
let's just go back and have a quick look.
Yeah, that one was very, very interesting. So.
Okay, so because I got stuck on this, so if the pirate pad isn't working, then we're just going to have to make some notes somewhere else.
Okay.
This is important. The second strategic action dash access. That's important. That's the first time that we have got a subheading to that Five Eyes SIGINT business vision document.
Okay.
And also I would make a note of special source and stateroom, please. Because those are things that we will need to go and cross-reference. Okay, so cross-agency architectural and technical solutions, operational planning and mission management, coherent SIGINT development, and sustained collection.
Yeah. And that's under, I believe, that whole paragraph there is top secret, and that's interesting.
Will be led by a senior steering group consisting of a representative of each agency attending as head of delegation. So it's very, very top level. Mm-hmm. Thanks to background work with partners prior to the conference, several agreements were reached.
Interesting. Huh.
See, this is more of this like deep state crap, you know what I mean? It's like how the Australian Prime Minister didn't know for 27 years about like the UK-USA agreement. Several agreements were reached. These guys aren't supposed to be reaching agreements.
Exactly. And how much do the elected leaders of those countries then know about those agreements? The multiple.
Well, the congressional oversight committees.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So that just goes under, again, the heading of your elected leaders are not actually in control of a very large amount of what happens.
Look, there's a really famous statement by the ex-Green Party co-leader in New Zealand, Russell Norman. He was one of the 5 members of the Intelligence Oversight Committee in New Zealand. And he said that he learned more from the Snowden documents, from Snowden's revelations, than he ever learned as a member of the Oversight Committee for the Intelligence Services in New Zealand.
Wow. That's amazing, but it makes sense.
Yeah, he didn't have a clue, because they would just come in and tell him whatever they needed to create as little questions as possible and as little controversy as possible, and then get out the door of the meeting. So just says it all.
Yeah, it does.
Okay, so back to this document, which is now, might be one of my favorite documents ever.
Yeah.
So, keywords, I'm just going to make a note of these for when I'm writing it up. keywords is commercial. As commercial accesses exploit what was the other one?
Our global network.
Something else. Commercial accesses
to exploit the global
coordinate,
network.
exploit. Global network. Stresses cooperation on access availability and take advantage of each partner's finite resources. So they're talking about human resources. Okay, the agenda for the 3-day conference, blah, 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 blah. Define the structure and governance. See, this is like structure, well, particularly governance. This is really dodgy stuff for them to be deciding for themselves.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, the ratification of
they're developing a charter for this. So this global network forum is this thing that they do every single year. So, but they've been doing it for donkey's years at this point, but they're developing a charter for it. This is what they're talking about. Ratification of the charter. And the documents proposing mechanisms to address the sharing of sensitive data to a wider audience. So this I would call International Transformation 2.0. Because that's really what it is. It's NSA rolling Transformation 2.0 out across the Five Eyes. Developing the strategic vision for the Five Eyes intelligence community. So this is, yet again, this is like something that they shouldn't be developing the strategic, well, this should be like the heads of state of the 5 countries are developing the strategic vision for the Five Eyes intelligence community, but by all intents and purposes, this seems to be the Five Eyes intelligence community is developing the strategic vision for the Five Eyes intelligence community.
Exactly. You know, that entire forum, these meetings should be that's the entire thing sounds like the type of issue that you would expect your elected leaders to be involved in creating, not
there's supposed to be some kind of, and not even just them, there's supposed to be like public consultation in this stuff.
Exactly.
I mean, especially when the strategic documents are like, 15 years ahead, a charting course for 15 years ahead.
I would just literally put that under the heading deep state stuff.
Yeah, really. Okay. Proposing mechanisms to address the sharing of sensitive data. To a wider audience. Cross-agency architectural and technical solutions.
Interesting. That would obviously go into that entire conversation we had last time about the fact that the NSA, CIA, these different agencies are not working against each other, they're working with each other.
Oh, they're not working against each other at all. It's total nonsense. It's such a total like it was purely to benefit themselves that they've spread this. Snowden is the CIA attacking the NSA. No, I mean, this is denial and deception, right? Basically, it's bullshit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bullshit. Which I think we've unequivocally proven.
Oh, absolutely, because it's just more documents where they're talking about it that you can throw at that. So.
Okay, operational planning and mission management. We already knew that working together on that. That's what all of these Pine Gap and GCSB documents have already proven. Coherence and development, development is just tying back into architectural and technical solutions. Sustained collection, that'll just be more on the project management side, this coherencing and development. And sustained collection, that is a big deal, because once again it is showing that they want this 24/7 365.
The massive dragnet. And then from that we hear later about how they're having to figure out how to intelligently analyze this huge amount of information that they're getting,
and how they're struggling to, and how they have 6,500 linguists and 5 guys working defense. Wow, phenomenal find. And that was number 6. Just check on chat for a sec.
Even if that's the only one that was really good this evening, that'll be an amazing find that we made on so many different fronts too.
My mind's blown, to be honest with you. Like, I think it's incredible. Wow, thank you so much, whoever's saying that lovely thing to us.
Oh yeah, my private messages on Twitter were unavailable for like an hour or so. But I don't believe that was like targeting me. I think that was some issue Twitter was having. Like, I don't know what type, but a lot of people were reporting that happened to them, or that Twitter itself wasn't working.
Helpful person, you're amazingly helpful person, has given us a new pirate pad and dated it today and explained that it's a new one while our current one is down.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you guys, you rock.
Wait.
Okay, I think it's actually safer if I don't access it, because it does seem suspiciously like when I'm accessing the pirate pad, like it just craps out. So I might just like leave you guys to do that for us. Okay, onwards and forwards to the next document, Battlefield SIGINT conference. Okay, it's an inaugural conference. The conference succeeded in gathering key partners from across the extended enterprise to discuss how to move toward improved integration and support of military operations. So again, this is like just, I mean, many documents already have, but this is just basically showing us that this idea that like the collection is benign, they're just watching is completely false. They are not just watching, they are acting on the information. Definitely. They might watch until they decide it's time to act, but they are very much acting on the information.
Absolutely.
Is it all unclassified? Okay, it seems to be. Mind you, some of the best stuff we've found has been in unclassified documents. Unmanned aerial vehicles, these are the surveillance drones.
Yeah.
So isn't this the year that they were weaponized? 2004?
I do not know.
I'm pretty sure it is, like, because I interviewed the drone whistleblowers, I'm pretty sure 2004 was the year that the drones were weaponized. Also provided were a number of presentations about key NSA initiatives, such as a surveillance drone. You may as well just read surveillance drone every time you read this. Tactical effort called Pine Ridge. A surveillance drone tactical effort called Pine Ridge. And net-centric exploitation applications. This might be useful. Pine Ridge, if you want to make a note of it, and just make a note that it's unmanned, it's related to unmanned aerial vehicles. Tactical. Because remember, the context of this conference is that it's in support of military operations. So tactical effort means like we're doing it now in support of military operations. It's called Pine Ridge. This also seems interesting. Common ground, does that mean common ground between agencies who are accessing this? Net-centric, like online storage of exploitation, applications for exploitation of connected devices or networks. Distributed common ground system. That,
yeah, I'd have to know what that is.
I'm completely speculating. I'm totally speculating. But is that something that looks like it's being shared? It's like a suite of exploitation or of exploits that is being shared across multiple agencies.
That's what that sounds like.
That's what it seems like. But then common ground might not be interagency common ground. It might be like battlefield common ground.
Exactly. Yeah, it doesn't really sound right to me that the NSA would just give the Five Eyes exploitations, but I guess it depends on exactly what they are.
To look back at who's actually attending this conference, it's not just Five Eyes. It is DoD, right?
Okay, that makes sense. That makes more sense to me.
Attendees include representatives from service cryptologic elements, service engineering technical officers, collection management staffs of the theatre, unified commands, second party, SIGINT partners, of which there's a bunch, the regional security operation centres and NSA.
Yeah, no, that makes much more sense.
The RSOCs, if we remember, these are like, there's the one in Germany and the one, like we've actually, we've covered a few of those. They're the lily pads. Do you remember them being called the lily pads? The RSOCs are the lily pads. They are the lily, it's like a lily pad between the signals intelligence collection and the operation, the side of the operation. So like Ramstein in Germany is a lily pad for the weaponized drones. This is where they're actually launching from. They're actually going and performing strikes from. It's the in-between stations. It's the bases that are in between, you know, the homeland and the area of operation.
Yeah, I know of those sites being revealed by Snowden, like the German one, but I hadn't known that they were called lily pads. So that's interesting.
Yeah, I'm not sure where that term came from, but that was the term, a term used to describe them.
Good to know. I'm always learning so much through these.
Yeah, these unbelievable. I learned so much too. These make me feel like I know nothing. Like when I'm reading through them, it's like, you know, amazing. Okay, so when we look at this more closely, those RSOCs are where the weaponized drones are now being based. And when they're referring to these unmanned aerial vehicles, they are what became weaponized drones.
Yes.
Originally surveillance, and they became weaponized drones housed at the regional security operation centers. So this tactical effort by the NSA called Pine Ridge
definitely something that needs to be
discussed. We discussed actions that should be taken to meet the challenges posed by new technologies.
Yeah, and 2004 was such a key time for all of this development.
Unbelievable.
Absolutely.
It's so true. It feels like we've found the bridge between the old NSA and what it became.
Yeah, of all the times that could have been captured by Snowden's documents, I think that was a very, very key time.
Really critical, isn't it? It's unbelievable. It's like 2002, 2003, it was like the top level managers saying, you know, something needs to change. We need a new vision. Here's our new vision. It's transformation 2.0. At this point, it's basically, you know, probably just a few documents and PowerPoint presentations. But by 2004, this is where they are, everything's changing.
Yeah.
And you're right, we're beginning to see it. And thinking about the fact that these documents, these batches of documents are in time sequential order, like the releases from the Intercept, you know, they've released them 2002, 2003, 2004, 2005. Now imagine what 2006, 7, 8, 9, 10 is going to be like.
Yeah, that's true. Very true.
Holy cow.
And eventually you have iPhones and you have all of the different things that go along with that. And yeah.
Incredible.
So yeah, and the proximity of 2004, like the one we're looking at, it's still kind of just after the Iraq invasion. It's still kind of that early post 9/11 type of time period. So yeah, it's really interesting to see this, for sure.
Okay, back to the document. And yet again, look, we're finding such interesting stuff in a document that's completely unclassified. Challenges posed by new technologies. I can't get over those words.
That's definitely what made me think of the fact that this is 2004 and so much is happening at that point.
And why is this the first ever Battlefield SIG-INT conference?
True.
Because drones are completely dependent. Like we hear about like CIA drones, we hear about, you know, different agencies running drones, the Navy running drones, the whoever running drones, the border security running drones. But all of the drones are dependent on signals. All of them. Signals intelligence.
Yeah.
They generate and act based on. Like they're both generating the surveillance data and acting in the first place, being sent out based on surveillance data. So logically, this would be a massive growth period, even just from that, even had they not gone into Afghanistan and gone into Iraq. Just the fact that these new technologies, that the drones, oh my God, I so wish I'd love to get Sean and Lisa in here and looking at this, you know, Sean Westmore and Lisa Lang, because I feel like we're looking at the documents that are at the birth of the problems that they've been raising.
Exactly. I agree. I think birth is the right word for this, for sure.
Okay, so yeah, that Pine Ridge, I'm sure it's got something to do with the drones weaponizing.
Yeah, if anybody has anything that they find looking that up, just in general or in WikiLeaks or anything like that, that would be interesting.
How are we going here? Oh, wow, that's so cool that the outer light is covering this. That's so great. That's so fantastic. Outer light is awesome. Okay, back to the document. Technical presentations included a review of the requirements, message format, blah, blah, blah. Good. Military Affairs Advisor briefed third-party relations and how they impact the use of host nation airspace, land and sea lanes by the US for SIG-INT purposes.
Yeah, I read that ahead and it was a little bit interesting. I mean,
it means they'll have to be monitoring the air traffic of pretty much all of these places. Otherwise, they're going to fly the drones into someone's passenger jet.
Exactly. And again, we're watching them, you know, we're looking back at them just figuring out the very beginnings of this in those types of ways.
This is just, I've got to be honest with you, it's totally blowing my mind. Like, did we just find the birth of the prison program and the birth of the drone program in one night?
I think it looks a little bit like that. I mean, they're literally, it looks like they're trying to figure out, like, how are we going to logistically put these in the air and not have them bump into things? How are we going to coordinate them on the battlefield? I mean, that really does look like they're just, figuring out how they're going to put this into practice. So if it's not the birth of the program, it looks pretty close. At least it looks like them logistically in the midst of.
If it's not in this document, it's coming soon.
Yeah.
Right. Major point of discussion. Major point of discussion was centered on the move away from tactical black boxes toward processes whereby military customers can directly leverage cryptanalytic capabilities when the exploitation systems themselves cannot, due to those factors, before deployed to combat venues as self-contained packages. Move away from tactical black boxes.
Virtual black boxes made up of geographically separate and distant exploitation systems and analysts that dependably disseminate actionable intelligence when needed to frontline forces.
This requires some thinking through.
I don't know
the delivery of the exploits, and they're saying where they can't be delivered as in one piece locally, that they need to be delivered in a fragmented fashion remotely, like from far away. But I don't entirely understand what is inside those exploit packages. Okay, I think we definitely need to come back to this. It's so huge.
Disagreements about the implementation of the individual steps in open forum.
A large number of potential targets.
Wow.
The distinction between national and tactical no longer exists.
Wow.
Everyone must act as partners in one seamless enterprise. This is, oh my God, dude, like.
That is amazing.
The distinction between national and tactical no longer exists. And they're talking to they're talking to foreign countries.
Mm-hmm.
They're talking to Five Eyes partners. Okay, so what are our key learnings from this document? As opposed to the things we want to research more, like Pine Ridge and distributed common ground system. Key learnings.
Drone program, weaponized drones would be a keyword from this. I mean, as far as what it's talking about.
Key learnings are that in 2004, the NSA had their first ever battlefield SIGINT conference. So they have had, think about it, they've had development SIGINT conferences, they've had Five Eyes Global Network Forum conferences, they've had all kinds of technical managers and production and customers and everything and information needs meetings and conferences. Now they're having a battlefield conference, a first ever battlefield SIGINT conference. So that fact alone that they had that is the start to what we've learned from this. That it included all the second tier partners is significant. That it referenced drones in being a tactical effort. And down here, where was it? That they talked about not smashing into people's planes above there.
Yeah, I thought that was an interesting point.
Yeah, the use of host nation airspace. I mean, and for example, Germany would be a key one, right? Land and sea lanes. They're still talking about using them for SIGINT purposes, which to me says that they are still for surveillance. They're surveillance drones at this time. But if they were weaponized in 2004, and this is what, July 2004, then we are really close. We're like a couple of months documents away from where they actually did weaponize them. I would love somebody who knows way more about cryptanalysis than me to decipher this paragraph.
Me too. I am totally stuck on that.
A lot more. I think like Julian would know a lot more about this paragraph than me. I would be very interested to understand what that actually precisely means. Where was it where they're talking about the new technology? It's up here somewhere, because that was that's what I'm looking for right now. The challenges to meet the challenges posed by, okay, discuss actions that should be taken to meet the challenges posed by new technologies. To me, this new technologies isn't the new technologies of the people that they're targeting. This is their own new technologies and capabilities which they are gaining access to.
Yeah, that's the way I understood that line. That sounds right to me.
On the first day, the chiefs provided an overview of how a battlefield SIGINT looks from their perspective and discussed actions that should be taken to meet the challenges posed by new technologies.
Yeah,
Also provided were a number of presentations about key NSA initiatives such as the UAV tactical effort. Okay, definitely, got it. So, Battlefield SIGINT conference and the link. And it was first ever inaugural. And it included second tier partners. And I want to quote specifically that line. To meet the challenges posed by new technologies. UAVs, host country, air, land, and sea space, or sea lanes. The distinction between national and tactical no longer exists.
Yeah, that line definitely needs to be noted somewhere.
I feel like we still don't know enough about that line. BSC attendees understood that advances in communications technology, coupled with the large number of potential SIGINT targets, means that the distinction, okay, so like tactical is like operational, right? It's like what we're going to move on quickly, soon. And national, or what we're working on now, national, the large number of SIGINT targets means the distinction between national and tactical no longer exists.
So would that
everyone must act as partners?
So would that mean that if you're a host, because there's going to be a lot of potential targets, if I'm understanding this correctly, there's going to be a lot of potential people they can target. So if they have intelligence that they need to act on quickly, then it doesn't matter whose country the person is in or which country the drone is being manned from. It's just we'll do what we need to do as soon as it happens. Am I understanding that correctly, or am I missing the point there?
There's two possible ways that I see two different ways, and that's why I said that we need to know more about this. Like when they say everyone must act as partners, there is no distinction between national. What I'm getting from that is that like they're asking this, like going above like the national boundaries, and like they're saying this is an international effort, like everybody is like on one team, etc. This is what I've been complaining about for years in terms of the Five Eyes, is that it makes a mockery of a national sovereignty.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I mean, there's a wonderful line in the Cullen Reddy report into the intelligence services in New Zealand, where they say that the national interest can inherently never inherently align perfectly with that of another nation. It is impossible for New Zealand's national interest to be exactly the same as the United States national interest. Therefore, if our intelligence personnel are taking orders from the USA, if we are sharing all of our capabilities with the USA, if we're sharing all of our information with the USA, we are actually ceding our national interest to the USA. There should always be a boundary line between the national interest and the international interest. So that's one way to look at it, that they're actually saying, never mind your national priorities, we all have to work together because this is a global thing, right? That's one way to interpret it. The other way is that they're talking about NSA national versus NSA tactical. But I don't think so. Tactical tends to be tied with the military operations, with like this is a battlefield conference. So when they use stuff like tactical, they're usually talking about what they're doing in conjunction with the military in support of military operations on the ground. They go straight to everyone must act as partners. So this in one seamless enterprise. The extended enterprise, go back to that language because we see this across multiple documents where they're talking about the extended enterprise. Here we go, right at the beginning. The conference succeeded in gathering key SIGINT partners from across the extended enterprise. It reminds me of Rumsfeld's, what was his term for when he brought contractors, he said private agencies and private contractors were a part of the whole force or something. What is it? There's some term that escapes me at the moment, where he basically widened the ring of like what the Pentagon Defense, Department of Defense is. Like went and like brought in a whole bunch of other things. It feels to me like that's exactly what they've done with the intelligence as well. With the intelligence agencies, they've gone, okay, you're all a part of us too. And like look back at the previous document where they're saying we must share our finite resources, our limited resources. We must make the best possible use by using all of your resources as well as ours to do what we want and to suit our agenda and our priorities. It's like they have assumed control of the international agencies.
That's what it sounds like, definitely.
And then when you look at like the WikiLeaks release from this year that I'm always going on about, where the US is actually dispatching New Zealand spies. They're dispatching them. They're literally like, now you guys go over here and do this. Here's the order. Like that's next level stuff. There's next level. Those orders should not be coming from a foreign country. Our spies should not be taking orders from a foreign country. But then our citizens' data shouldn't be being stored and surveyed, by
it's one of those things
by a foreign country either. And this is what I mean about this breakdown, this total breakdown of national sovereignty. And I think that's just like another stick on the donkey's back, that sentence there.
And yeah, the gulf between what you think should be the case as far as sovereignty and the logistics of how spies should be ordered around or whatever, and then the gulf between that and then the reality of how it works.
The distinction between national and tactical no longer exists.
Yeah, and I read that as having some relationship to the increased numbers of targets they would be able to look at, either surveil or target with weaponized drones. I felt like that was a big part of what they're talking about there in that sentence as well. Like somehow that was going to increase this need to work together as all these different agencies and countries.
This really shines a new light on 9/11 itself as well. 9/11 was not an attack on 43 countries. It was an attack on America, regardless of who did it. Mm-hmm. There's 100 theories for who was ultimately behind it, responsible, but what America has done as a consequence of that is it's like a coup.
Yeah.
This is like a coup of the entire global intelligence community. They are assuming the resources of the entire global intelligence community, of the West, of the allied countries, of the coalition of the willing. So it's not just that. So, and that's in yet another light as well being shown, is that when George Bush said the coalition of the willing give us, and I remember for researching one of my articles, there was like countries that gave like 2 troops, 5 troops, 10 troops, because that was all they could give. This like 43 eyes that we looked at in the last episode means that when you join the coalition of the willing and send 20 reconstruction troops, you're not just sending 20 troops, you're actually being integrated into, it's like inducted, you're being inducted into the intelligence mafia.
And you're ceding your national sovereignty.
And you're ceding your national sovereignty, and then next thing you know, you're getting dispatch orders from the frickin' CIA, like, amazing. It's quite dizzying actually to see it. It is like it's a massive coup on an international scale. It's unbelievable. Okay, so I think we're done with this document now. Spent a lot of time on that, but it was worth it. Actually, both of those last 2, those were just absolutely huge. The Global Network Forum and the Battlefield SIGINT Conference. Just quickly check in with YouTube. How are you guys going?
They only act like enemies, huh?
Oh, there's so much talking here, I can't catch up. I should be using the pop-out chat. If Blake was here, he'd be reminding me to use the pop-out chat. Okay. Sorry, you guys, like the discoveries tonight are like so
mind-blowing, really
significant again, that it's truly phenomenal. Okay. I'm way behind on the chat. Sorry, you guys. Just like catch me up if I'm missing anything. So definitely and thank you for sharing all the links and everything. That's really cool.
Much appreciated, for sure.
That's a really fascinating question. Look, Burgett's asked, do you guys think that a private individual with sufficient funds could access these services?
That's a great question.
That's an extremely fascinating question, because we know that there are private individuals who are starting mercenary armies, like Eric Prince. And we know that there are private individuals who own these private investigation agencies that target people. And we know that there are private individuals who own these social media companies that harvest like these lists of social media users who are interested in different topics, and then sell that data to the government and to the government agencies. They sell them as targets. So who knows whether, who knows who gets given access to this information? Who knows? In theory, it's for the benefit of the executive. In theory, it's overseen by the Congress. But in practice, who knows? Who knows who can access this? I can't answer that question, but it's a brilliant question.
Yeah, and without leaks like this, we wouldn't have any idea that there was such a gulf between what should be happening and the practice, the reality of what's happening at all. So unless we have more leaks like this, we won't know the answer to those type of questions.
Reading this, New Zealanders have no idea of the scale of this. They have no idea. The stuff that we're discussing makes it almost incidental that every New Zealander is being spied on, because it's even worse than us just being spied on. And people have absolutely no idea. I mean, believe me, I've been doing my best to tell them, but they have no idea. And if they did, you know, then the next question is, what on earth can we do about it? But moving along,
yeah,
back to finding out like the state of the world that we live in.
Yeah, well, documents like that have so much in it, they do bring up like all the existential questions about this general topic. It's easy to get, you know, kind of sidetracked into those huge topics, because these more amazing documents just lead that way. So
you start to understand why they're so pissed at Snowden.
Yeah.
That they would bring down a president's plane. When you read these documents and you understand how every troll fake account saying he's a disinfo op or he's a whatever, you know, you read through these documents, you understand the true significance of them, and it shows you the veracity of him. There's absolutely no way that they would want any of this.
Absolutely not.
In a public arena. No way. Okay, let's try for like one more document, and then I think we'll just hang out with people for a bit and see if there are any questions. Because I really feel like we have done
How much time have we gone through today?
We have really done a lot tonight, even though we've only been through, you know, we're on the 8th document now.
Yeah, well, there are nights, like the first night that I did a stream with you, it was the same way. I mean, we just had like 5 documents in a row that were insane. And so that's all we got through, but it's fine because there was an amazing amount of information that came out of that. So.
And you're right that it's escalating as well. Like, just jump back on Zoom for a sec. You're right that it's escalating as the time, and it's related to the time period. Because if you go and look at part 1 of the Decipher that I did, like off the very first batch of documents, you know, there's like this many revelations. And you look at like part 2, and there's like this many revelations. And then you look at like part 3, and there's like reams of revelations. And I can already see that, like, by the time we get through this, it's going to be 2 or 3 times as long as the last one was.
Yeah.
So you're right. We're really getting into the nitty gritty of of the change in the agency, the change, as they say, the emergent technologies, the new technology, and the impact of them.
Yeah, it was right at the time that the internet had become something that was really usable, but it wasn't fully developed yet. So we're watching that changeover between those two. That's what it seems like.
The full scale commercialization of the internet.
All of it. And people using social media.
That's what I was saying about the .com. That .com bubble was the real commercialization of the internet.
Yeah.
Full-blown commercialization of it. And then I guess by 2004, we started to have the average Joe blogs uptake of the commercial services, which is exactly what they're saying. And it's very interesting because, you know, when they say, oh, our targets are beginning to use these commercial services, they're not talking about terrorists. They're talking about regular people. They're talking about the activity of the general public.
Exactly. And that's really important. It's really important to define too. The word target there does not just mean people that are terrorists. It means like the entire population of XY countries. So.
Yeah, and because they're looking at network level and they're looking at the network activity across an entire population. That's why they're talking about these trends. They're not talking about, you know, Bob, Dick, and Harry in the Saharan desert. Like, they're talking about like, entire population's communications behavior is changing, and they're engaging with these commercial services, and therefore we need what ultimately became the PRISM program. And initiatives like that in order to be able to bulk collect, sustained, remember those words from the document, sustained collection.
Yeah. And then later, I'm sure as we move through, we'll see more of the issue come up again of how to actually interpret this huge amount of information that they've collected. So.
Okay. One more doc and then we'll wrap it up for today.
Or one more like significant document.
Actually, we should have revisited the intercept reporting That usually when I start a fresh batch, I will always go and revisit the Intercept reporting to make sure we're not doubling up, because things like Israel, Palestine, they're very likely to have reported on. But we'll have a look. It's top secret. Wonder why it's top secret. That he was in Tel Aviv for 3 years is top secret.
That's odd. It doesn't seem like something that would be classified that highly.
His name is redacted. Okay, I think that maybe what we should do to wrap this up is to go to the Intercept and to actually read their reporting on batch 4.
Okay.
It would be quite useful for us to do together, because that way we'll be able to see before we go through all these documents what we can ignore, because it's already covered. Because the whole purpose of the series, for those who don't know, is to focus on the findings that have not already been published prior.
Yeah, that have not been publicized by people at the Intercept and other outlets. So.
And also just make the point that we're not at all trying to antagonize the Intercept here. Glenn actually specifically stated, he put a specific call to action out to journalists to study the documents and to find anything that the Intercept had missed. So that's precisely the purpose of this project, is to get more eyes on the documents and more brains working on the documents.
Definitely.
Okay, I'm just finding the reporting from that release. Filter by release. Release number 4. Okay, I can't do it that way. All updates. Okay, here we go. So they have 4 articles that they wrote about this. I'll just share screen and take you guys through it. So we're currently working on the release from April 24th, 2017. Yeah, okay, cool. So that's part 3, which we've already done. Here we go. The latest release from SIDToday covers the second half of 2004, which is exactly where we're at right now, July 2004, highlighting the NSA's struggle with searching Arab language PDFs, cooperation with other US government agencies, and its work in Pakistan. The Intercept with this latest release is also publishing a detailed history of the NSA's secret relationship with Japan and 2 articles that highlight the agency's domestic work, including the use of a blimp to spy in the United States and its work at political conventions. So I remember reading all of these at the time. Why Soviet weather was secret. That probably answers our questions about what was the weather document that we found last time? Do you remember, Elizabeth?
Well, that absolutely is out of my mind right now. I don't remember.
There was something weather. I remember it was related to classified weather, and we were like, wow, what's that group about?
Yeah.
Japan secret deals with the NSA that expanded global surveillance. NSA blimp spied in the United States. NSA kept watch over. Oh, okay. So we should check this because we want to know if this is the unmanned aerial vehicle stuff that they're talking about. Though it's probably not because it wouldn't have been in a battlefield context.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It's interesting that they used Maryland as a proving ground for new airships destined for Afghanistan or Iraq.
Yeah, when
NTIO, National Tactical Integration Office, that is the same office that is referenced. But let's see if the document is the same document. I don't think so. No, it's not.
Asia. I don't remember any mention of Asia. No.
No, we haven't seen this yet. Okay.
It's
so
interesting
this
it says
specifically
that
about the blimp.
The blimp was looking at a lot of commercial information. I thought that was interesting.
Okay. Where's that?
It's a few paragraphs up, I believe. I think one more up. There. The second paragraph. The blimp was The blimp was able to vacuum up international shipping data emanating from the Long Island, New York area.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It was yet another dragnet of American citizens.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. But it's not our UAVs from the battlefield stuff.
No, exactly. Yeah.
The G2 Annex is the Japanese surveillance organization. I'm just skimming through it, guys, because I'm just looking for the stuff that's actually relevant to the documents. There's the code name for the document. Oh no, this is still historic. Ghost Hunter. So interestingly, what the Interceptor is doing here is they are finding stuff that's in this batch release, and then they're tying it into more recent documents that they're selectively releasing that relate to it or to other Intercept reporting. Unless that 2008 document has come from somewhere else, but I would assume not.
Yeah, that gives a good overview of the stuff that they've reported on, so that we won't need to cover when we go through. Oh, I remember that.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I remember that too. Slides. Look, it's just amazing how these spying hubs And they even say they're forward operating bases, like should they ever need them, they say up here that they would use the Japanese territory if necessary, provide fighter and military airlift support for offensive air operations. These are the defeated World War II territories. This is we're seeing Germany as the major lily pad for Europe and North Africa.
True.
And we're seeing Japan as the Pacific front against China and Russia. So it is the vanquished enemies of World War II. It is the conquered territories of World War II, which have been converted into these forward operating bases or these spy bases.
Yeah.
Okay, this is really fascinating and real. I mean, this reporting is extremely in depth. Is this Ryan Gallagher who wrote this probably? Yeah, it's Ryan Gallagher. So I mean, this is thousands and thousands of words and referencing. I mean, he's got a dozen documents. Okay, I'll just share screen again. He's referenced a dozen documents just in this one article. So this is extremely high quality reporting. Japan provided with X key score.
Interesting, yeah.
So that's a dozen documents that we don't have to cover from this batch. And it's really useful that they've actually listed the documents directly like that at the bottom. Very useful. Okay, so now we have Soviet weather and the DNC and RNC NSA operations. And it's tied it back to the Olympics, to the fusion. Okay, and this is the Arabic language PDFs.
Yeah, it looks like everything we've looked at today so far hasn't been reported on yet.
No, it hasn't. I don't see anything in here that relates to what we've picked up on. And so this is the next year's rock drill. The one that they said, remember in the documents we studied, they said next year there'll be a rock drill. So this is Intercept reporting on that rock drill when it actually happened. In Haiti, Pakistan.
Okay.
Oh, this is listing some of the customers.
Oh, that's helpful.
Yeah, NSA's two-person liaison office responds to SIGINT requests from Departments of Agriculture, Health and Human Services, Interior, Transportation, Environmental Protection Agency, Export-Import Bank,
Wow.
Export-Import Bank, Federal Aviation Administration, Federal FCC, Federal Reserve System, the Federal, see, this is what I was saying before about the banks.
Yeah.
The Federal Reserve can order intelligence from the NSA.
That's not part of the government, so it's not a governmental organization. But this also goes to, it looks like the question we had earlier about can an individual use any of these services or abilities that the NSA has. And it looks like, I don't know about individuals, but that's what it sort of sounds like when you have the Federal
Yeah.
Reserve.
If you have a private organization accessing NSA, then yeah.
Exactly. Finding genetic sequences? Huh.
Pocket litter. Oh my God. I didn't know that pocket litter was actually a thing, like an intelligence thing. And do you know what pocket litter is?
Like lint, like the stuff. Wait, am I?
No, pocket litter is like receipts, like.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
You know, movie ticket stubs, or like for a movie you didn't go to, or like it's to like see like false leads or whatever. So if you're spied on, there's this club in Germany that does this. They all exchange their pocket litter.
Wow.
So that if they're like spied on, then in theory the spies run around following up on all of this and waste their time on it.
Wow.
But I didn't realize it was an actual thing. I didn't realize this is something they actually do, is have like fake pocket litter. Crazy. Nefarious use of genetic research. Well, I don't think they're just looking for nefarious use. I think that they're actually stealing R&D.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, I mean, just in a kind of laughable way, it makes you wonder about the companies like 23andMe and Ancestry.com, like those genetic tests.
Yeah.
Wonder if that's also ending up in some NSA database. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Yeah, of course it will be. Of course. I mean, we talk about sustained collection. Look at that, like Iraqi Baghdad hospital satellite photo from 1977 or whatever they used in one of their operations.
And that's on this 9/11 article. Sounds like it's going a little bit towards that transformation 2.0 in stuff when it's talking about not sharing intelligence effectively. Yeah.
Oh, then this one, they're saying that there's turf wars due to real or perceived mission overlap.
Interesting. Huh.
So we hadn't got to these documents because in the prior documents, everything's hunky-dory.
Yeah.
Director of Intelligence, Director of Operations, and Director of Science and Technology. I'm pretty sure these got changed, didn't they?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm thinking they got, I'm pretty sure it was Brennan.
That makes sense.
Massive strategic change of the organizational change. So what is the context in which they... For further information on the NSA-CIA relationship, we suggest contacting the NSA F5 organization.
Wow.
The NSA representatives located at CIA, or the CIA customer account management folks and the Signals Intelligence Directorate. So they have staff stationed within each organization. We knew there was NSA people at CIA already. Well, I guess CIA doesn't have people in NSA, but NSA has people in CIA by the looks of that. The Special Collection Service is a joint NSA-CIA organization whose mission is the covert collection of SIGINT from official US establishments abroad. That sounds like embassies. The clandestine SIGINT program, run by the Jointly Staffed Technology Management Office at CIA, provides numerous excellent examples of human enabling SIGINT and vice versa. Yeah, so that's the left and right arm stuff.
Yeah, and in that paragraph right above that, it talks about how they've partnered a lot, as well as having some of these turf issues. It says there are some excellent examples of partnership. Yeah.
And science and technology, they have very different skills. Again, they have very different relationships with foreign partners. There are many examples of the two enabling each other.
Yeah, so even in this article that references some sort of turf kind of competition, I guess, it's still talking very much about how they work together and how they complement each other.
Yeah, it's saying exactly that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, hang on 1 second. I have 2 minutes, literally 2% battery. So just hold on and I will be right back.
No problem. Well, I think since we have 2 minutes, it's probably, once you are back, it's probably time to wrap up anyway with some like final sort of comments for what we found today and we'll go with this next time. But I think today's been really, really interesting, and we found some really, like those 2 documents that we found on the pretext for PRISM and for the sort of development of the unmanned drone programs in the battlefield. I thought those were amazing documents. And I hope the rest of this batch is just as interesting, because this has a lot of material in it that you can write multiple different articles about each one of those documents.
Yeah, from what I'm reading here, they might have people competing on specific missions or mission overlap, as they say. But there's absolutely no way that the CIA could replace the NSA and what it does.
Oh, yeah,
and there's no way that the NSA could replace the CIA or what the CIA does.
Yeah, and in that document, it was saying they work together all the time, even with some sort of little, I guess, tensions at some points. But I thought the document that the Intercept reference there was just as much talking about the cooperation as it was about any tension. So
yeah, it's interesting that they interpreted it that way. Because I think that document is 99% explaining how each agency is dependent on the other.
Exactly. That's the way I would take that. I thought that the reference in the document of turf war or anything like that was relatively minor. So
yeah, and we already know they have a revolving door at all levels. They have they're studying, together, and up to and including the visits by the directors, and they're operationally dependent upon each other. Okay, then there's overclassification, and then NSA supporting the US Marshal Service, and then that's it for this batch. So that's very helpful to review that before we go through and look at the rest of the documents. Okay, definitely. How's our chat going? Sorry, guys.
We're right on time.
Right. I'm still up at Bridget's question. Guys, do you have any questions before we go? We will be back on Friday, and by Friday, I should have the findings from tonight written up on a new decipheru.com post.
I will start a new article on what we find in that for.
Cool. Yeah, and we'll continue. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. I would just wear a loincloth so I won't have pockets. Classic. Wow. Okay, cool, guys.
Yeah, thank you to everyone who joined us and helped us out researching and asking questions tonight. It was really fun. We always really appreciate it when people are interacting on the stream.
Okay, cool. I'm really happy we're finishing a little bit early tonight. 2 hours is good. We've done well. Okay, guys, we will see you on Friday. I always get confused about the days because it's like
because Tuesday, Thursday is the more normal. Like if you're going to pair something together in the week, Tuesday, Thursday is the automatic thought.
But it's Friday. Friday for the Americans. It's Saturday for New Zealanders, and if you are exiled in Russia, it's also a Saturday, an ungodly hour. Okay, guys. Thank you so much. Take care, and we will see you later. We'll talk to you on Twitter.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Bye.